For the first time in more than half a century, human beings are preparing to leave the comfortable cradle of low Earth orbit and push outward, toward the moon, to go there, to fly around it, close enough to see the ancient craters with their own eyes, close enough to feel, in whatever way astronauts allow themselves to feel during a mission. 4 human beings will climb aboard a vehicle, sit on top of millions of pounds of explosive propellant, and trust that everything humanity has learned about physics, engineering, chemistry, and courage will carry them safely to the moon and back. The last time anyone did this, Richard Nixon was president. The Vietnam War was still being fought, and a color television was considered a luxury. Generations were born who had never seen a human being travel beyond the altitude of a weather satellite. That changes now. The crew selected for this mission represents something genuinely new, not just in the technical sense, but in the human sense. The commander is a veteran of long-duration spaceflight, a man who has already spent months aboard the International Space Station, who understands silence and confinement, and the particular psychological weight of being far from home. The pilot beside him flew on the very first operational commercial crew mission, a historic flight in its own right, and carries with him a calm precision that those who know him describe as almost preternaturally steady under pressure. The 2 mission specialists expand the boundaries of who this story belongs to. One of them holds the record for the longest single spaceflight ever completed by a woman, nearly a full year in orbit, and participated in the first all-female spacewalk. She has already lived in space longer than almost any human being who has ever existed. The other is a colonel and fighter pilot from the Canadian Space Agency. And when this rocket lifts off, he will become the first person from outside the United States to travel to the moon. More remarkably still, this will be his first spaceflight. He has trained for years, competed against the finest candidates his country could produce, and earned his seat through sheer excellence, and he will go from never having left the atmosphere to flying around the moon in a single mission. History rarely offers moments this cinematic, and yet here one stands wearing a flight suit, ready. The spacecraft that will carry them is called Orion, and it represents a deliberate philosophical choice about how humanity returns to deep space. It is larger than the Apollo capsule that came before it, wider by more than a meter, roomier inside, capable of sustaining 4 crew members rather than 3. This flight is a free return trajectory, a carefully calculated arc that uses the moon's gravity as a slingshot, swinging the crew around the far side and sending them back toward Earth without requiring any major propulsive burn at the moon itself. The moon's own gravity does most of the work. This is not a limitation so much as a deliberate engineering philosophy. The goal of this mission is not to land. The goal is to certify the vehicle, to fly it with people aboard, to stress test its systems in the actual environment of deep space. There will be no landing on the moon during this mission. That milestone is reserved for a future flight, still being prepared, still being assembled, still carrying with it the particular weight of something that has not happened yet. The rocket that will lift them is the most powerful NASA has ever built. It stands nearly 100 meters tall, and when it ignites, the ground shakes. The 2 solid rocket boosters flanking its core stage are descendants of the same design that powered the space shuttle for 30 years. Together, they provide the overwhelming majority of the force needed to escape Earth's gravity in the first 2 minutes of flight. The core stage beneath them burns liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen through 4 engines that were also originally developed for the space shuttle, then remanufactured and refined for this new purpose. Above all of that sits a cryogenic upper stage with a single engine of extraordinary efficiency, capable of performing the delicate burns needed to shape the spacecraft's trajectory once the raw violence of liftoff has subsided. The result is a vehicle capable of sending approximately 27 metric tons to the moon. That number deserves a moment of context. The Saturn V, which carried Apollo to the moon more than 50 years ago, could throw 45 metric tons to the moon. In raw lunar delivery capacity, the older rocket was more powerful. This is one of the peculiar melancholies of spaceflight history, that humanity built the most capable rocket it has ever operated, used it 12 times, and then dismantled the production lines and scattered the engineers and never built another one. The knowledge had to be reconstructed, the supply chains re-established, the institutional memory recovered from retirement communities. None of this diminishes what the new rocket is. It remains an extraordinary machine, but it carries within it the shadow of what was lost. A reminder that capability, once abandoned, is not easily recovered. The launch site is a pad that has held history before. Rockets from another era stood here. The ground itself is soaked with the memory of previous departures, previous returns, previous moment when the human species looked upward and decided to go.
We're going back to the moon because it's the next step in our journey to Mars. We need to go explore the moon. There's vast regions of unexplored areas with the coldest, darkest places in our solar system.
But another reason we're going back to the moon is to fulfill NASA's mission, which is to explore the unknown in air and space, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery.
The thing I love about the moon is that it's not just a beacon for exploration and this platform of possibilities for incredible missions like this, but it has benefits. That's actually why we're racing towards it. Those benefits are really wide in nature. You have everything from innovation, technology development, not only for future missions going deeper into the solar system, but technologies that come back to Earth.
When I think about the four of us flying around the far side of the moon, seeing that Earth rise, taking images and video and sending them back to you, the feeling that I have inside is hope. We know that Artemis II is not the solution for humanity on planet Earth, but it is a contribution in the positive column.
The margin is small, the significance is not. For a few hours, these four people will be farther from the rest of their species than any human being has ever been. The moon grows in the windows. The closest approach comes at roughly 7,400 kilometers above the lunar surface. This is not close by terrestrial standards. 7,400 kilometers is nearly the diameter of Earth itself. But in the context of spaceflight, in the context of a vehicle curving around a world with no propulsive braking, it is intimate. They can see the surface in detail. They can see craters that were ancient before the first humans walked upright. They can see the terminator line, the precise boundary between lunar day and lunar night, razor sharp in the airless environment where there is no atmosphere to scatter the light and blur the edges. And then they are past it, curving back toward Earth on the return leg of an arc that the mathematics of orbital mechanics had calculated with perfect indifference to its own beauty. The journey home takes more days, more correction burns, a demonstration of manual piloting, because in space, redundancy is survival, and manual capability must be maintained and verified. A demonstration of radiation shielding, because beyond Earth's protective magnetic field, the crew is exposed to cosmic radiation in ways that scientists are still working to fully understand and mitigate for future long-duration missions. The data they collect, the experiences they have, the anomalies they report, all of it feeds forward into the missions that will follow. On the 9th day, the spacecraft prepares for Earth. The service module, which has done its job, carried its propellant, generated its power, sustained the crew for the entire journey, separates and falls away. The heat shield is exposed. This is the moment that the engineers on the ground have worked toward for years, perhaps the most technically demanding single event of the entire mission. Re-entry from a lunar return trajectory is different from re-entry from low Earth orbit. The spacecraft is moving faster. The heat is more intense. The heat shield must absorb and deflect energies that would vaporize the vehicle without it. The shield was tested on the previous uncrewed flight. Now it is tested again with people inside. The atmosphere bites. Plasma forms around the capsule, a sheath of superheated gas that blocks communication for several minutes. A period of radio silence that the people on the ground endure with a particular kind of controlled tension. The spacecraft is alone in the fire. There is nothing anyone can do but wait. It emerges. Parachutes deploy in sequence. First, the small drogues to stabilize and slow, then the main canopy system. 3 enormous orange and white chutes that fill with air and transform a hypersonic descent into something survivable. The ocean comes up fast, and then there is splashdown, a jolt, a spray of white water, and suddenly the capsule is floating, and the crew is still alive. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen aren't just astronauts. They're the first step in a much bigger return to deep space exploration. And what happens on this mission will decide how fast we go back and how far we can really go next. We're not just watching history, we're watching the beginning of the next one. If you want more breakdowns like this, NASA missions, tech, stick around. There's a lot more coming.